Guys ready to go then?
Never been more than.
I am.
Hopefully it won't take 2 hours.
That would be awesome, 'cause today is intense.
Recording in progress.
All right. So we'll get started with the Finance Committee with questions if there's any changes to the agenda. Nothing? Okay,
No changes.
all right. Go ahead and get started with the review of the fourth quarter financial report. Again, this is preliminary. We just kind of closed the books the end of last week for 2025 for expenses, and then actually just got December sales tax today. And so that sales tax revenue to start, it was up 10.7 through November. It is, looks like it'll be up about 10.95. And we had budgeted 11.1 with, and most of that, 9.1 of that is that new sales tax. And so that's a big portion of it. So we're going to be right close to budgeted projections, and we're kind of, we'll end up really being at budget because the actuals for 2024 actually came in higher than what was in the 2025 budget. So it all kind of balances out. So we're kind of going to be right at budget. So that was good to see. Again, it'll be something that we definitely monitor going forward with, looks like a slowdown in the economy with hiring. And so we'll really look at that in 2026, as well as some of the factors we've got coming with, a new grocery store across the way in.
And Jeff, when you say right at budget, are you speaking just to the revenue side at this point, or both revenues and expenditures?
Just to the revenue side right now, just the sales tax side of that.
Okay. Thank you.
We do everything in buckets, but overall, we look like we're pretty good, expense and revenue, but this is just talking sales tax in general.
Howdy,
Hello.
are you the whole finance committee today?
Well, Mike is joining us remotely to say
Oh,
he's getting
hi, Mike.
sick.
Sorry to interrupt.
You're good. So then after sales tax, then just to let everybody know, we ended up getting the rest of our FEMA payments from the Marshall Fire. So that's kind of wrapping that up, which will be good to have all that done and completed. Water revenues were down about 10.7% for 2024. A lot of that was because of system development fees. But water usage was down about 0.4% in 2025. Most of that being due to irrigation with, it always changes every year of, we kind of estimate what the, past has been and kind of figure out where it's going to be. And if it's dry, if it's wet, and people don't irrigate as much, then we kind of, play that game, and it also affects the rates.
I was going to say, it's a bit of a guess because we don't know how much water people are going to need to be using, but with the rate increases, trying to step that up to keep that fund from being upside down, do we anticipate it being down as much in subsequent years with those rate increases, or no?
Again, hopefully not.
Yeah.
But
Who knows?
I worry about what we hear on the weather of lowest snowpack.
Yeah.
That probably won't affect us in 2026 because reservoirs are full. But if all of a sudden we have another one in 2027, and now we don't have the water in all the reservoirs, now we're going to have to talk about water restrictions, and now all of a sudden we're really going to have to get in that game. So
Yeah.
we've just got to watch that, but we're definitely hoping for the water.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Have you talked to other municipalities that have, potable water department, and how do they approach this situation? Because I got to imagine we're not the only ones that are facing these kinds of challenges. And so I'd be curious kind of what the best practices are across the Front Range. That if are there things that other municipalities that they're doing that we're not, that we could be doing? So I'd just be curious to understand that.
No, we talk about it a lot. I meet with about 8 different finance directors from around the area. We just started that, and this is one of the things coming up of, hey, what are you guys doing with your water rate increases? Because a lot of us are either in the Windy Gap project or another northern project called NISP is another one that's building another reservoir. And as those costs keep going up, everybody's like, as costs go up and cost of doing, treating the water goes up, we're all going to have rate increases. And so it's trying to get ahead of those, as Councilmember Miller had just said, of trying to stay consistent so that we don't have to do 20 and 30. Talking to the Broomfield finance director, they did have to go those big rate increases last year, and he said we're probably still going to be double digits, going forward. And pretty much everybody else I talked to, Arvada, Erie, some of those other ones around here, Louisville, Lafayette, we're all talking double digits, and that's for the foreseeable future because of where we're at. So, does that answer your question, Mike?
It sort of scratches the surface. I guess the question I'm trying to ask is there a different model for how we bill for water use? So, because I realize that the less water people use, the more per unit costs.
Correct.
And so the more money we have to charge. And it's that perverse incentive of conservation, quote unquote, costs money. But we want people to do the right thing by conserving water. But we realize that from an economic standpoint or a financial standpoint, that increases our costs. So are there other models out there that we could look at that brings that closer to parity, or doesn't have such extreme shifts when there's droughts, or when a lot of people decide to rip up their grass and put in, natives?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a tiered system just like we do. What some places have started to do is increase the monthly charge, the flat fee that is on the bill.
Okay.
They'll raise that and say, okay, now we know, here's our base with no water, even being delivered. And so it's one of those of, yeah, you can do that, but now everybody's paying more. And if you're paying more and then you're still having to use it to keep your grass the way you like it, it's kind of a double whammy. And so it's a catch-22 that, but people are talking about that, Mike, of increasing that base fee to kind of have a more stable idea. And then if you do have a dry year that everybody's using water, you increase your fund balance. And then all of a sudden, if you have a wet year and nobody's using it, then you kind of balance that out. So that is one thing some places are talking about doing, and I can't remember. I think there's one place that has done that a little bit, but it's just been recently.
Okay.
Do we know how that's worked out for the person or the entity that's done that?
I can't remember who it was, but they just started it in,
Okay.
it was either 2025 or implementing in 2026. So I'll ask around again.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful information. I don't know if enough time would, give you enough time to do some research before the next finance committee meeting, or maybe at a work session over the summer. But I think sharing that kind of information and feedback would be helpful for the broader council. Because, I got to imagine that the majority of council are not thrilled with the idea of having to do double-digit rate increases. And if there are other ways to stabilize the fund balance a little bit more without doing double-digit rate increases year over year, I got to imagine there would be a good conversation about that.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that, and, I don't know if this is, to Mike's point, achievable before the next finance committee or when this would be achievable, but I would love to have an idea of if we increase the base, how much we'd have to increase it by. I want to avoid doing a massive increase and then having the stair-step increases, but if it's,
That
minimal.
becomes one of those, we can figure it out and say,
Yeah.
what do you want the number to be? Okay, we can get this much out of that revenue, but what does that do with our tiered system of, do we leave them the same and then kind of go that way? But yeah, it's something we can try to look into, but we may need to dig farther into that to figure out how do you calculate all
Yeah,
that.
that might be a heavier lift,
Yeah,
so if
so-
that takes a little bit of time. as far
Well,
as
and
that
we may
piece
need
of-
to get like a rate consultant or something in
Yeah.
to do it right, and then that costs money, and so, but we will do some research and see what we can find.
That'd be great. I just want to avoid sticker shock. I mean, we've talked about it several times, but, you know, I feel like we're behind the 8 ball on it, and I don't want these 20, 30% increases for residents, so whatever we can do to avoid that. For Chimney Hollow, because I know there was some mitigation that might need to be done there, is there any idea of costs? Are we starting to see that yet?
Not yet. We're
Okay.
still talking about it.
Okay,
They're still doing studies, bringing people in to try to figure out, okay, because unfortunately, we're never really going to know until we actually fill it.
Yeah.
Figure out what we can do, but they're doing some modeling.
Okay.
And trying to figure out, okay, here's what we're thinking. Right now, they're leaning towards, hey, we can use some of the leftover loan that we got, that you guys approved a couple years ago. And then there's some cash on hand left over from the construction. Most of the participants would rather use that up first.
yeah,
Northern wants to maybe say, hey, let's keep some of that in the bank and come back to you guys. And we're like, no, wait. You know, so we're still in, preliminary of trying to figure out how that's going to work. And we'll just keep you guys informed.
awesome, thank you.
Hello. All right, for expenses, general fund's down about 6.4%. Most of this is because the transfer we do between CIP and general fund, we don't just move it all, because in the past it's been, we only moved what the general fund had excess of. Well, we've needed to do some CIP projects, so we've kind of changed that philosophy. And so we don't move it until we really CIP absolutely has to. And so that's why we'll wait till we close the books and then figure that out. We've got about 1.35 million left in the budget to move. That's probably what we'll move, and that will then pretty much eat up the rest of that budget in the general fund and kind of make it back to where it is. Water expenses are up about 58.7%. That is a majority of it, a big majority of it is the payoff of that water debt. That's almost $7 million payment that we made for water, sewer, and storm. And so that makes up, it looks like it's big, but it was budgeted. And so it is in there as a budgeted item. We knew it was coming.
Okay.
All right. Sales tax revenue, as we talked a little bit about, we just got December today, and we're going to end up about 10.95% up, a little bit under budget, but with the way 2024 ended, we're going to be right at the budgeted figure because the 2024 actuals were higher than what we estimated the 2024. So we're about where we thought we would be, kind of up and down year, but we ended up where we were at. Overall general fund revenues, you can see we're up about 2.7 million. A big portion of that is the sales and use tax. A big part of that is the use tax side of that being the hotel pulling their permit, the apartments, and some of the bigger projects that were pulled in 2025. Property tax was slightly above after higher valuations. Permit and plan check, the same thing because of bigger projects. And then the miscellaneous line, that is up with the water line project that town staff kind of did. We did project management cost with RC Superior, and then the big portion of that was a $729,000 FEMA reimbursement that made up a big chunk of that.
So Jeff, on the water line piece though, there's going to be a corresponding expense because we had to manage a contractor and manage the cost of that project. So really the only bump there would be the FEMA payment, correct? Or are we making I don't call it a profit, but
We, not really a profit, but we did charge them for kind of our staff time.
okay,
So that's why it's sitting in the general fund. There will be our portion of that project expense in the water fund. But a big majority of this project was actually paid for by the developer as they were the ones that needed the water. We kind of just said they were going to do it. The Public Works Department wanted it to be upsized so that we'd had kind of extra water. And so we paid for the upsizing.
okay,
They paid for everything else. And then since we were running it, they said, hey, Brandon and his group ran through the contract and said, they paid us kind of a management contract amount to kind of run the project,
okay,
or oversee the project, I should say.
okay, great, thank you.
Yep. General fund expenses, judicial and clerk were a little bit different because we made some changes in the allocations this year with changes in those departments. Legal fees were down in 2025. Public safety costs were a bit higher, as well as with the co-responders. Planning and building, same thing because of new development. Parks and Rec with new summer markets, building maintenance, and then a big portion of it being the new civic space that we hadn't had in the past. And then non-departmental, again, that's the transfer, and that's why that one's down. Capital projects, I'm not going to go through all these. Everything, the council has seen, or, if not, they probably have been pushed out for whatever reason, but they're all listed. So unless you have any questions, I'm just going to kind of flip through those and see if there's anything big that I want to bring up. But we kind of mark the ones that are completed and truly have had final invoices. Some of these didn't have final invoices, so that's why we'll wait, but they should be closed out by the end of the year when we
Do
close
we
the books.
know, some of these, it looks like vehicles came in over budget, but then fence maintenance came in under budget. Do we have something that shows, do we end up over budget as a total or under budget?
Under budget. That'll, if you look at the actual financial statements, then, we can look at it that way. But no, everything's in total under budget, unless they're going to be under budget. We did the budget amendments back in October for anything that was going to be over budget. So in total, we'll be fine. We're under budget.
Those cost savings, are we able to allocate those to other projects that we've had to delay, or is that already?
Yeah, I mean,
spoken for?
once we have savings, now some of those savings are going to be projects that didn't get completed in 2025 that'll get carried to 2026.
Got it.
So we'll relook at that when we do the 27 budget. We'll put 25 actuals in. Anything that got rolled over into 2026, we'll put those in so everybody's aware of them. And then say, okay, what do we have? What do we think 26 is going to be? And now here's what we have for 27,
Okay,
ready to, or available to be spent.
okay.
Class 1 landscape, again, pretty much at expectations, both revenue and expense side. Open space, slightly above revenue side because of sales and use tax. Operating expenses are above the original budget. This is one of the budget amendments the council did because of the wildfire fuel mitigation. And that is also going to be funded mostly by a grant. Then those are the capital, next are the capital expenditures for open space. Again, fuel mitigation was the big one that got added this year. We're still working to get that finalized, and that'll continue for the next two plus years. Open space debt service, again, the original debt.
Hey, Jeff, can I ask a clarifying question? The capital, the 650,000 for fuel mitigation, is that basically the goat grazing?
As well as other projects. This is the HMGP grant, the new I don't know what the acronyms are, NDME grants that Allison and Brooke and those groups with Leslie are working on to kind of harden areas. So it's not just all goat grazing. There's other things that they are doing.
So in my mind, when I think of capital, I think of building a structure, something permanent, whereas goat grazing to me is more of a program. So can you help me understand why we classify goat grazing as capital?
Well, our open space fund is both operating and capital.
Okay,
So it's all kind of one bucket. It's not split.
okay,
We've got the debt service side and then kind of the open space capital side. Now, when we first started it, it was capital because it was just buying land. Now it's more of buying land as well as upkeep of the open space we do have.
so would it make sense to move the goat grazing into kind of an operations budget rather than a capital budget?
I mean, it's broken out in the open space fund is kind of two different areas, but it's all going to be one pot of money of the 0.3 sales tax. It's not like the sales
Okay.
tax is saying part of its operation, part of its capital.
Okay, so we don't have to delineate according to sales tax language, capital versus operating. It's just one bucket of money that we can spend from.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. That helps.
Yep. So then, again, open space debt service, we paid off that 2015 refunded debt this year. So now we will start paying down the principal on that 2020 Coyote Ridge land purchase. Before now, we had just been paying interest on that debt. Waste collections, is the monthly pass-through from Republic that got changed this year to pay-as-you-throw. And that is, just a straight pass-through, so there's nothing to go over there. Marshall Fire recovery efforts, again, slightly above revenue. And then this is where we did the budget amendment as we move those, the revenue that we get in that fund over to the CIP projects every year to kind of help offset those costs for either delayed projects or full recovery projects. The Superior Urban Renewal Authority downtown, because valuations came in higher, revenue came in a little bit higher, but this is again a clearing account that goes to the metro districts in downtown as well as the developer, and then the carve-outs you see above in that paragraph. Mountain View Fire gets some, Louisville gets some, BVSD gets some, as well as the town, and that's all from either agreements in the cost sharing agreement or if you increased your mill levies. That's how those four entities get that revenue. Superior McCaslin Interchange District, again, property taxes are slightly above budget. Operating expenses were at budgets, if not a little bit below. And the reason they're below is the Marshall McCaslin Bike Ped and Signal improvement project was designed in 2025, but construction will start in 2026. in utility operations, we talked about water revenue. You can see the breakdown on the graph here of, charges for service were down 0.4%, and then the tap fees down, 19%, but that's kind of where we had them budgeted, so it's not a big worry right now. We'll see how 2026 plays out. Again, water expenses, same type of thing. Non-departmental, you'll see jumps out, and that is because of the payoff of that debt that we talked about. And then water supply was down this year with the Windy Gap Cares and Power, and the Southern Water Supply pipeline expenses were actually lower in 2025. Those, again, are pass-throughs through Northern Water, and so they estimate as best they can, but depending on what water there is on the west slope and how much gets pumped over to the east side, that kind of fluctuates every year. So, and those costs are budgeted to go up here as we fill Chimney Hollow. Now, that may be delayed, but we will continue to watch that and forecast how we can do that. Fewer capital projects in 2025, but that was as budgeted, so that's why that one is down. Again, paying off the SMD1 debt in 2025 takes that off the books. But that, then rolls into more of a northern payment that we knew was coming, so it kind of worked out just about the right timing. And then we still have the sewer operations loan through the state that we took out in 2020. And then these are the utility projects for water, sewer, and storm. See if there's anything to point out, unless you guys have any questions. Mike, on page 17, that water main transmission line, that is that project we were talking about with the developer.
Okay,
So that's where that piece is.
gotcha. Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. And then the number pieces we kind of, have already gone through. I'm just going to make sure there's nothing, unless you guys have any questions.
Jeff, I'll just make a comment. I mean, for a town that's 4 square miles, just looking at all the capital projects in sewer and water, I mean, there's a lot going on, and that's just in those two. So, kudos to you and Brandon and the entire water department for all the work that's getting done to keep water flowing through town. That's a lot.
Yeah. And they do a great job of staying on top of what we have coming from the Fed or the state with unfunded mandates and trying to make sure we're getting ahead of those. And that's another one of the reasons that we need to watch our water rates, but make sure we have money in the bank if something were to happen, but also have to where we know, hey, if we do have to go out to do a big project, we don't want to cash fund it. So now we've got to go out 20 years. Well, we've got to have, money in the bank every year to say, okay, bank, here, we've got an extra $500,000 we can do debt with. And that's one of the reasons we need to get back to being self-sufficient in that water, sewer, and storm fund. Sewer and storm are pretty good, but water's the one we really got to watch.
Yep.
So. And then the last sheet is just the investment portfolio summary. And we just are safe with the investments, so that's kind of why you'll see the drop as interest rates have dropped and the yield we get has dropped as well.
I know I've asked this before and I can't remember the answer, I apologize, but are we doing any sort of index funds or anything where we're not worried about? We never lose principal, correct?
We never use principal, so we are
Okay.
just in US Treasuries or agencies.
Okay,
we have not done any, corporate paper or anything like that. We are 100% fully backed by the government, so.
Perfect.
We have no chance of losing value unless our government goes under.
So
Yeah,
hopefully that doesn't
so-
happen.
So no, we are, rules from the state are very conservative, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Good, thank you.
I have a question. I apologize, I can't find it in here. I wrote down questions and now I'm like, but the question I had written down was about why the interest earnings were up so much. Like, is it a more than normal increase?
It all depends on what fund and then, we estimate what we're gonna be.
Yeah,
If we don't spend the money early in the year and it goes, we just get more interest than we
Okay.
usually would.
okay.
But yeah, if you've got a specific fund, let me know and
Okay.
we can go through it.
And then the fee that we pay to the treasurer, this just has become personally interesting to me, but I just, how, it said, like, it's like $105,000. Is that annually? Like, what is that set on?
It's based on a percentage of property tax collected or
Okay.
Vehicle
So
use.
it's a set amount.
It's a set
That's a
amount.
percentage from
It's-
the county that they charge for administering your,
they charge the
Property taxes,
residents X for property tax or
Right.
vehicle use tax, and then we get X minus like 1 or 2%.
okay.
So it's a set
It's a fee.
Yeah,
And
it's a-
so we're smaller. So other municipalities are paying the same percentage, but a lot
Correct.
higher, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Percentages are the same.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's all I had for financial reports and December income statement, unless you have any questions.
I had one more, and maybe I
Yep.
missed it at the beginning, but just the clerk office supply, like, there was like a doubling of, did you go over it already? Maybe
Yeah.
it was at the website or the administrative stuff because of hiring a new,
It was just a change in the way we did allocations.
oh, okay.
With the change in that department, we kind of moved more into clerk and out of judicial, and then we had position was vacant for a couple weeks as
Okay.
well. So, yes, good question.
Did you go over parks already? No.
Yep.
Okay. The overtime is like double what was budgeted. Is that normal?
It
I
all
know
dep-
that parks is,
It all
we
depends
always have
on
it.
what the year brings with,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, we try to do a good job when we do the budget, but, and Public Works can be even worse when, if the water guys have a water break,
Yeah.
you know. So, yeah. All right. Next thing on the agenda is the purchasing policy proposed changes. So Matt had heard from some council members of, hey, maybe let's go back to the $100,000 for the approval for the manager, so not everything had to come to the council. And so we kind of went through everything and just made some adjustments on some things. So we added, had Alexis in the sustainability add kind of action steps for the environmentally preferable purchasing portion of the thing of, okay, we're moving towards this. So just kind of setting steps and guidelines for everybody to use. We added a digital accessibility section required by the state now to this. And then the big changes are going back to a 5-year bid process from 4. We did that, I think we changed that in, 2012 from 5 to 4. Matt thought it was time to go back to 5. And then talking about it, we added a critical town services, and I think there's 6 or 7 items on there. It's on page 4 of the policy of kind of the core critical services being, waste collection, snow removal, landscape, water and wastewater treatment plant operators, banking and building review and inspection services. Kind of saying, hey, those are critical, and when we make changes, it is a heavy lift. And so we said, hey, we'll go to bid with with those every 10 years, if not earlier. And any of these, if a council or the manager said, hey, it's time to go out and look for attorney or snow removal, we can do them every year if we wanted to. This is just guidelines.
Hey, Jeff, I just want to say thank you for the additions that you've covered so far. My heart was very, very happy to see the EPP language added. So I really appreciate Alexis for adding that. And then, just so for some context, the critical services piece, I completely support. I'll just use waste collection as an example. When we bid out waste collection services, we're asking waste haulers to buy really, really, really expensive pieces of equipment to serve our community. And if they can amortize that cost over 10 years rather than 5 years, it only benefits the residents of Superior. And the same is going to be true for snow plowing and any other critical service where big equipment is involved. So I think this is a really smart financial decision for the town to leave this option open for the council. Obviously, we have the flexibility that if we don't like the service, we can go back out to bid it at any time. But if we're happy with it, then we can keep it for 10 years and then rebid it.
Yep. And, if the council looks and goes, we want to take a couple of these off, or we want to add this and this, we can have that discussion when it comes to the full council, but that's kind of what staff's direction is, kind of the recommendation we will make to the council is kind of, here's what we're thinking are critical services as we talk as the staff, because we've talked about it a couple times at our staff meetings and said, hey, what do we need? But we also knew we didn't want to make the list 20 different things. And it's like, no, let's keep it to a small, concise thing. So I appreciate your feedback, Mike. And if you guys have any other follow-up on that, let us know. Then the other changes we made is by the dollar amounts of when either quotes have to be done, formal bids, and who approves them. The first change is, for a no bid or no proposal going from 2 to 10. This is so, hey, if we need to go out and buy a, whatever, that $2,000 has been there since we first approved the first purchasing policy back in 2008. So talking about that, we said, okay, we'll propose taking that to 10, and then to get 3 quotes with department head approval would go from 2 to 15 range to then 10 to $35,000, and then to actually get formal bids, not just quotes, but actual bids or proposals, taking that from 15 to 25 to 35 to 50. And then the same thing, 3 required bids or proposals for the town manager going from 25 to 50 back to the 50 to 100 it was before the last change in 2024. And then the last change is taking the proposals that have to go to the council, increasing that from 50 to $100,000. So those are the changes that staff is proposing to the purchasing policy.
And Jeff, just a quick observation. For the last 2 under the thresholds for procurement, you've got the formal bid or, up to 100,000 and then over 100,000 formal bids. Would it be more clear to say 101,000, over 101,000?
Yeah. Oh,
This box is 100,000,
Yeah.
or make the 50 to 99,999 and over 100,000. Just again, in case there's like a project that's 100,000 even, somebody's going to ask, well, which box does this fall into? And then that's going to create a bunch of administrative headaches.
okay, yeah, I'll change it to 100,001, or what are you guys' thoughts there? Because it's over 100,000 is that last thing that would go to the council. Do you have a recommendation on what you want me to change that to? Or just take that one below it or the one above it to just 99,999?
That's would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's clear.
We can do that. we will make that change.
Good point, Mike.
Good clarification, because that will make it clearer.
And Jeff, when this does come before the council, I can foresee a couple of council members asking, are there other jurisdictions or neighbors that have similar thresholds? So you don't need to answer that today, but in anticipation of this coming before council and that question coming up, might be good to have that in your back.
Yes, the town manager, city manager, you'll see on, we do have that. So everybody else around us is at 100, except for Broomfield, it's 200.
Okay,
And then those dollar limits of department heads and that stuff are pretty close to everybody else.
okay,
The one that, when I've talked to people and looked at their stuff, Broomfield, for that first thing where it's no bids, is at 10. Somebody else was at 7,500 and a couple of them are at 5,000. So that's kind of the one where we may be a little bit above, but I don't think it's out of the ordinary from this area. But as we get to the council level, we have checked on those and that is where we're at.
and another question I could foresee being asked by a council member or two is, do you have any data on how many contracts we do under $10,000?
No,
Okay,
we wouldn't be able to get that, unfortunately.
okay.
So any other comments or questions on the changes to the purchasing policy? Okay,
That's good.
all right. Thank you for your input on all of that. Next thing on the agenda is the 2027 budget discussion. I don't have a lot here. I was just leaving this open for discussion. We heard during the, budget approval process of, hey, let's start this right away. I'm not sure that's what we want to do, but we're planning on doing the same thing going forward. But is there something the council or the finance committee would want us to bring up, like during a work session before we start? Are there items in the budget that you, as a finance committee or as a council, would like more detail on, I guess is where my first question would be, as well as, does the budget process work for the finance committee the way we've done it in the past?
Go ahead.
I especially like the way you just flag when there's anomalies or something that we need to focus on. Besides that, just looking through every line item for me is I'm looking for those things to jump out, what are different, and so I'm saying all this to say I don't need anything else. I think how it's going is great. If that's, relevant, any feedback you're looking for.
Okay.
It's working well for me.
Okay.
Like Jen said, I appreciate when you're flagging stuff for us.
Mike, any comments?
Yeah, I agree that flagging the critical items are important and or if there's trends that maybe aren't showing up as a red flag, but maybe something that your curiosity flag is going, hey, this might be something to keep an eye on. In thinking about kind of the 2027 budget, and I think this is kind of connects to the conversation we were having last night about the comprehensive plan. Making sure that we as a council and the town have kind of a real solid understanding of kind of the financial trade-offs that we're going to be looking at. And I don't know if this is a town staff responsibility or developer responsibility or planning commission responsibility, but doing some financial due diligence around the proposed development and what those financial trade-offs are versus some other type of development. Because I know some of the concerns you've raised with King Super moving into Louisville and what that might be doing for our sales tax revenue. And knowing that sales tax revenue is our lifeblood, making sure that we are on top of those types of financial decisions so that we're not just doing all of one type of development, which will shortchange the town in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So I don't know how that analysis gets done or what that looks like, but for me, that would be important for us to keep top of mind as we start to talk about 2027 and in the context of any development proposals that come into town. So, I'd look to you to say, where does that sort of analysis sit?
You will see a brief portion of all those vacant properties in the comp plan of what we've seen come forward, and we've kind of put estimates together of here's the revenue it could generate. But it's really tough to figure out and put something in there and say, hey, here it is. Because I mean, I look at what, in my almost 20 years here, what some of the things that have been talked about across the way before even that went in. I mean, everything from grocery stores to gas stations to, we've heard it all. And I'm going to go back to when the marketplace was built over there by Whole Foods. I believe when they first started it was going to be a movie theater. So things completely change even as the process goes on. So trying to say, hey, we can put something in and say, here's what it would be if it goes in, and then try to figure out what you're giving up by doing that is almost impossible until we get a plan in front of staff, and then more importantly in front of the council to say, here's what this would bring in. If we don't do anything, you're going to get zero. Do you want what you think you could have, or do you wait? And so again, it's going to be one of those that trying to say, yeah, I've got a crystal ball to say, here's what it's going to be is almost impossible. And then we just have so few properties left to try to figure out what's going to work. Because of the way the economy keeps changing, if you'd have told me some of the things that have happened since COVID, we would have never projected what is going on with the online sales and stuff like that. So it's one of those where we can do as good as we can. And if the council or a developer comes in and says, what about this? We can run projections on kind of what we think. But to try to say, here's the opportunity cost by doing this, not knowing what's could happen there is tough to do.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Wanting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I wish I had the crystal ball. So that's all I had for the budget discussions.
Jeff, can I ask a question for the other section? I just recently found out that we're paying like $100,000 in credit card transaction fees.
That's where I was headed next too.
Fantastic.
So,
So I wanted to look at not doing that. I know it's pretty standard to, if you're using a credit card, because there's other modes of payment if somebody wants to pay another way. I know when I ever pay on my bills for a credit card, I do the points thing and figure out if it's worth it for me to get the points. But there's usually a transaction fee. If you're going to pay by credit card, there's X amount more that you're paying, but which basically just covers the transaction fee. It's a pass-through. Could we look at that? Because I'm thinking, 100,000 plus and just fees that we're paying for people using a credit card could be allocated to projects that haven't been able to be funded, and
yeah.
a litany of other things that money could probably be better used for.
Yeah, and that's something that we can look into. It is getting to be more and more places that are actually starting to charge for it. It's, if you look and go, okay, DMV is one that, so you're seeing it more and more. In the past, it was municipalities didn't pass it along, and so direction staff has gotten in the past from prior boards and councils is, no, we're not passing it on, we're gonna eat it.
Yeah.
I've heard from a couple council members now of, hey, can we do this? Yeah, I mean, we're working to try to get permits to where we can pay those online. The reason those haven't been is, one, we didn't think they could, when we made the switch, could get it working. We're working on that. But that's something that, we've capped our credit cards right now at $2,500 because of the fees. I mean, nobody, well, when you get your points, there's a cost to that.
Yep.
That goes to the merchant. And the funny thing is if you would look at our merchant statement, you're like, oh, small little Superior. It's about 11 pages.
Yeah.
Because every credit card that has different rewards has a different percentage that we pay for merchant services.
Yeah.
So, a lot, not a lot. Places are starting to add it. It's usually, I've seen 2.9 to 3% is usually kind of the standard. And we pay, depending on the month, somewhere between, 3 and 3.5 usually is what our costs end up coming down to. So it's definitely something that we've looked into in the past. We can work with our credit card merchant companies to say, hey, can we add this to our charges? So it'll be a process to do it, but it's something definitely, if the council wants to look at doing, we can definitely look at doing and figuring out when and how to implement it.
Okay, maybe I can have Matt add that. If it's something that's doable, I'd maybe ask Matt to add that to the work session, just because I feel like that's a lot of money on fees, which I would be more in favor of just supplementing those for people if there wasn't another way to pay, but there's a litany of other ways to pay.
Yep.
And so as we're having to cut budgets and other things because there's not enough money, I'm like, why are we wasting money on fees when there's other ways for people to pay if they choose to? But I know, almost all my bills that I'm paying with a credit card for the points, I'm paying a transaction fee for that. I mean, it's an exception, not a rule at this point if I'm not paying a fee for it, so.
It
looking
is
at that
funny
would be
how
good.
the places that do and don't anymore, Excel is one that does, at least for me, Comcast doesn't. So it's interesting to see who does and who doesn't. What I've also noticed is even some brick and mortar places are starting to add and say,
Yep.
here it is. And another one that pops into my mind as we were just there is car dealership services are starting to add it. So it's definitely becoming something that's starting to be added when you add that credit card. So yes, it's definitely something we can look at. If the council wants us to go that way, we'll figure out how to get it done. But yeah, it's definitely something we can look at.
I'll talk to Matt about that then. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so you are already, because I know when we did our permit for the bank up here, I couldn't pay with credit card because it was over the 25. So
Yeah.
we're looking at that too, to allow people.
What
if
we've
they
done
want.
is we've actually changed the purchasing policy saying we won't charge for up to 25. Anything over 25, you can pay, but we're adding the 3%.
Good.
So we're doing it manually, but
Even
yes.
$2,500, I'm like, that's not cheap. If somebody's paying up to $2,500 and we're eating the fee
Yeah.
on that. Be nice to just do it across the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll ask Matt about it tomorrow when I meet with him.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Jeff, just to kind of play off of Stephanie's question there. So are we, where we are accepting credit card payments, are we at cost recovery, i.e. are we fully charging the fees or are we still absorbing those fees at this point?
We eat everything. We pay, we pass nothing on any
Okay.
of our payments that we receive.
Okay. Yeah, I would be supportive of moving in the direction of cost recovery on that. If that results in more than $100,000 in savings, great. But that's, might get some philosophical questions about, well, this one private individual is benefiting because that individual is being subsidized by the rest of the taxpayers for that one transaction. So I'd be supportive of moving it in a direction of cost recovery.
Yep. Okay. All right. So that's all I had, unless anybody else had anything else other.
Oh,
Yep.
can we do public comment for Ross?
Sure.
Thanks. You want me to go up there?
What, does he have to for the mic, or can he just do
I
it?
probably, so that people can hear you.
Yeah, I won't be able to hear him if he's not at the microphone.
Okay.
Sorry, Ross.
That's all right. I'm happy to stand up here. It's just awfully formal with the three of us.
That's right.
Well, first off, Jeff, I think you do a great job too. I appreciate being able to see all the line items and how you flag things. I have a question about the credit fee since that came up. How much of the 100,000 is charged on what we are paying vendors versus what we're paying the credit card company for our collections?
That's just credit card company collections.
It's the whole thing is credit card. You're not using credit cards for purchases?
We are, but we don't pay that.
Oh, okay.
It's basically the processing fee for anyone using a credit card to pay us for utility bills, permits,
I
that
get
type
it.
of thing.
That's, I'm totally in favor of recovering that. I had another question on the SIP dollars you mentioned potentially coming back to the general fund. Is that, well, can you explain that to me? Because
The CIP transfer,
yeah,
that's just, it's actually money from the general fund that gets transferred to the CIP fund to do projects. So it's using some of the property tax and sales tax that's sit in the general fund to kind of enhance or increase the amount of funding available for
Okay.
capital
I
projects.
misunderstood. I thought you said that at the end of the year, there would be some coming back to the general fund.
No, it'll go the other way.
Okay.
It'll be moved out of the
I
general
didn't
fund.
follow that. And then on the index fund, is that money that's in the general fund that you have invested, or is that a separate fund of itself?
On which one?
The index fund,
Index fund.
you had a graph up here for.
Oh, that's the portfolio, that's the town's, that's the money of the town, and it's invested either in treasuries
Yeah.
or at the bank, so it's a combination of where it's.
Okay,
in-
so it's rather than having it just sit in a savings account.
Correct,
Got it.
yes.
Do you know what the cost is to pave an alley?
I do not.
Okay. Well, that's what I mainly came down to talk to you guys about, because we talked about it briefly at the first Friday. But I wanted to do it here since it's on the record, and not to flog a dead horse, but I think it's really important to consider any opportunity that we could for moving any funds in that direction. I'm really frustrated because a little over 2 years ago, we had some kind of an open house here at Town Hall, and Brandon made a presentation, I believe, but it may have just been an informal question period that we brought the the potential alley project forward, and he explained some things to me about the costs, and that and we discussed whether or not to use blacktop asphalt versus concrete, and I think I told him at that time that I didn't want to see any more crushed asphalt because it was obviously doing us no good, and that the only thing that I would really be happy with was concrete. And he said, well, we'll work in that direction. And then not too long after that, he told me that that he had made that decision and that the alleys were actually going to be paved with concrete, and that the one that I live on, which is designated as Maple Street, primarily for the homes across the alley to the north of me, when Marcel Arsenault bought that property and got Maple Street vacated and developed those 6 lots, the alley became Maple Street. And that and Fifth Avenue, I think, are 2 real important places that should be followed through with like we were promised. I was told, let's see, early last summer that no, it wasn't going to happen last summer, but it would happen this summer. And then I just heard that now that's not going to happen at all. So I just feel like we were promised something, and now the promise is broken, and I'd like to plead on your sympathy to see if you can do anything at all with the budget to make that happen. And that's why I was asking if you know what it costs, because obviously that's a place to start.
And you said that was Maple Street and Fifth?
Yes. Maple Street is the alley north of Coal Creek Drive, and Fifth is obviously the newly opened up street that has always been on the plat but was never used, on the west side of the new homes that are developed west of 4th Street.
Okay. I know that talking to Matt and Brandon, that it sounds like it was slated to be paved and then we had to cut money.
Yeah.
We can revisit that and see if there's.
Beg your
any-
pardon?
I said, but we can revisit that. I'll talk to Matt and Brandon and Jeff. and
Yeah,
see if
I
there's-
don't understand why it was cut and what was more important.
I mean, I know when we went through the budgeting process, there was millions of over budget, so it basically fell into that.
Yeah.
But we can take a look and see if there's anything that can be done. I don't
Sounds
want
like
to say
if you
one way or the
start
other without.
collecting credit card fees, we could get a couple alleys paved.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Well, that's all I had. You know the rest of it, so I won't tell the whole story again.
Well, thank you for coming down to put it on the record. And I can't say one way or the other because I would need to talk to Matt and Jeff and Brandon and see if there's money to
Yeah.
get that done. But we'll talk about it and see if
I'd
we can get it done
appreciate
for you.
hearing back about that.
Yeah, no worries. We'll follow up.
Thanks.
Yeah,
It's always great to see y'all.
Thank you.
likewise.
Good to see you.
I just
Ross.
want, I just wanted to add that those conversations did happen. Just to validate what Ross was saying, I just want to, sometimes I think people, like, I remember them talking about that, and I know that we talked about removing it as part of the larger adjustments that we had to make. So just like Councilmember Miller said, I'm happy to support talking about how do we figure this out for you guys without making promises, but it's good that you're here to bring it up and prioritize it and put it in front of us again.
Well, thanks for saying that, Jen, because I forgot to mention that the second time that I heard that promise was at a meeting just like this with the Finance Committee last year. And you all were here. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you revisiting it.
Thanks,
Thanks
Ross.
a lot.
All right. And again, just back to the credit card fees, that's what we collect for everything. So that's not all gonna sit in general fund. A lot of that would end up back with the, water, sewer, and storm funds, because that's where a lot of it goes, but just, it would be more money back, but it's not like it's gonna free up six figures to go into the general fund type of thing. So just,
Okay.
just to put that on the
Goes
record
back
as
in
well, and let you
Water
guys,
fund that we're under on?
yes.
Okay, so that would be
So
positive.
yes, it would help that too.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
thank you for the clarification.
And the other thing is we talk, about budget and issues like that. I always like to remind people, before downtown Superior started going and development, we were transferring about $1 million to $1.5 million out of the general fund, not to CIP, but to water and sewer and storm. So when you talk about being self-sufficient, we got us there. Now we're kind of gone backwards, but it's just a good reminder for everybody of, it hasn't been that long ago. It hasn't even been a decade where we were transferring because of the way the districts were set up and the debt was set up, that if rates, fees, and charges didn't pay for operations, including the debt, general fund had to pay them. So we set aside money every month. At the end of the year, if they needed the money, it got shipped off to the water fund. So we've come that far. We just got to make sure we stay there. And so, yeah, just something to think about. But yeah, the budget's always the budget. We talked about it. The alleys have been in there. We can look at it again and see what we can do. But, it's always, you guys have seen it, as you just mentioned, it's been a tough couple budget years of trying to figure out what needs to get done with the amount of money we have. So definitely something we can look into.
Yeah.
That's
As
all I
those-
had.
as those system development fees dry up,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
I want to make sure that, yeah, I thought you'd like that, Mike. I want to make sure that we're closer to self-sufficient than not, because I don't want to be transferring out of the general fund to cover that. I mean, to look at Ross, there's so many things that we really need that money for.
Yeah,
And it shouldn't be to subsidize the fact that we're not charging enough.
yeah.
So, thank you for your work on that.
Yep. So that's all I had. Next finance committee meeting, we'll kind of do the same thing unless you guys have any other ideas. I think it's just one of those of, got to make sure we get the quarter closed and then figure out what works best for everybody. I know it makes it a little tougher rather than having a set schedule, but it's just the way it's kind of been of, the finances kind of change and always are moving, so,
It keeps it exciting.
yes, it does, so. Unless you guys have anything else, we will adjourn then.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your work. Take care.
Get well.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Jen. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.